Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio and ESPN News. 250 plus markets across the United States of America. Check your AM, FM dial nearest you. Plus ESPN Radio Sirius XM Channel 80. Plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airways of ESPN News. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Credit Karma. Get your truly free credit scores and free credit monitoring from Credit Karma today. That's Credit Karma, K-A-R-M-A. Get knowing. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. Got a lot of stuff to get into today. Some NBA stuff to talk about because we got the Golden State Warriors, the two-time reigning defending NBA champions, hosting the Denver Nuggets with the number one seed in the Western Conference, apparently on the line. We'll get into that just a little bit. We've got some LeBron stuff to get into because he's talking about not being comfortable and as a result being more motivated than he's been in a long time. We can have that discussion as well. Of course, we look within the Eastern Conference and, you know, Giannis, the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, refuses to sit down, wants to play. The Milwaukee Bucks want him to sit down, don't want him to play. That's something that's interesting to get into. Of course, there's also some stuff to get into in regards to the NCAA tournament, the upcoming NBA draft. Who's your top 5 selections in the NBA draft? Some people's got Cam Reddish in the top 5. I don't even think Cam Reddish deserves to be in the NBA draft. I really, really don't. I don't like what I saw from him at all. I think he needs to stay in school. And with Zion being gone and possibly R.J. Barrett being gone and Cam Reddish returning, he needs to stay in school and elevate his stock and show that he's worthy of being a first-round pick because he's got the talent, ladies and gentlemen, to do it. But I question his motive, his will, and obviously the consistency of his jump shot. So that's something that we can definitely get into today as the show progresses. But I want to start off with a little bit of football. And the reason I want to start off with a little bit of football because we've got people all caught up in their emotions. I mean, I must admit, it was really, really nice to look at the Cleveland Browns yesterday and to see those 3 guys on stage together. I'm talking about Baker Mayfield. I'm talking about Odell Beckham Jr. And I'm talking about Jarvis Landry. It struck me as a tad bit odd. I don't know if I'm overreacting to this, John, but it struck me as a tad bit odd that Odell Beckham Jr. was the one sitting in the middle instead of the quarterback that was Baker Mayfield. He was sitting on the right end, if you're looking at them. Odell was in the middle. Jarvis Landry was on the left. Not a big deal. Please don't get me wrong. But usually the quarterback is the center of attention, as opposed to being the enigmatic wide receiver who's obviously a stud. And we listen to Odell Beckham Jr. And as a New York Giant fan, I must admit, if you're a New York Giant fan, it was a bit difficult listening to him yesterday. And do we have sound from Odell Beckham Jr.? Because I want everybody to hear this. If you're a New York Giant, if you're a Cleveland Brown fan, you're ecstatic. You're ecstatic. You're ecstatic to have him there because of his talent. But the level of maturity, the way he spoke, his verbiage, his mindset and everything else that came with it, I got to admit, you're a Cleveland Brown fan, you're feeling quite happy. You're a New York Giant fan, you're like, wait a damn minute. Who the hell is this guy? We don't recognize him. Listen to this.
It's hard to explain. I can't even put it into words. I was sitting at dinner, and I remember just seeing Gilliam call in, and I knew something was going down. Picked up the phone, took the call. All right, it was quiet for a minute at dinner. It just was a lot. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's just a lot of emotions, a lot of thoughts, that run through your mind. Your whole life's changing. Of course, if I wanted to be anywhere else, I'd be playing alongside my brother. Like, this is, like I said, since the day we met, we talked about I'm going to the same school as you, and where we're going. He had different offers. I didn't have all the same offers yet, but it was like, where are you going? I'm going there. Like, this is, and I tell people all the time, I was like, he made me who I am today. Like, he's taken me to a level of this greatness, this legendary stuff that we talk about. It's because of him. So, I mean, there's no better place for me to be but here.
Those are beautiful words. They're beautiful words, ladies and gentlemen, because when you've got somebody that's that tight with you, like a brother, who, by the way, it ain't like you can ball and he can't. Odell Beckham, not to say that Odell Beckham Jr. implied that, because of course he did not. But what I'm saying is, Odell Beckham Jr., we look at him as a superstar talent. Jarvis Landry can ball. Jarvis Landry can play. Okay? So it's a beautiful thing, beautiful words. And I'm not being facetious, I'm not joking around. It's a beautiful thing to see. Two guys that tight, that loving and loyal to one another, looking out for one another that way, watching each other's back that way. You just can't say enough. You really, really just can't say enough about what we're talking about here, what we're seeing here. Now, understand, they don't get to throw the football to themselves. Baker Mayfield's got to do that. And Baker Mayfield, the individual that played pretty well last year, particularly after Hugh Jackson was fired. And he was playing with Greg Williams as the head coach and Kitchens as his guy because they like each other and have a really good relationship. Which is why Kitchens got the head coaching job, by the way. We see all of that. We get it. We understand it. We really, really do. But to get back, before I even get into the Cleveland Browns, let me say this about Odell Beckham Jr. Legend? Legendary? John, look at me for a second, talking to my producer extraordinaire here. What am I missing? Odell Beckham Jr. has been in the National Football League for 5 years. His fourth year, 2017, he only played 4 games. We know about that injury against the Los Angeles Chargers. We got it. I want to be very, very clear that as a talent, Odell Beckham Jr. is sensational. As a talent, he's one of the elite receivers in the game. When you think about Odell Beckham Jr., you think about Antonio Brown, you think about Julio Jones, you think about DeAndre Hopkins, you think about all of these guys that are elite at their craft at the receiver position. Odell Beckham Jr., as a talent, deserves to be in the conversation with any of those guys. And personally speaking, I like Odell Beckham Jr. Personally speaking, I think he's gotten a bad rap. Personally speaking, I've been on record saying I think people have completely and totally and utterly overreacted to his antics. You got people talking about good riddance. You got people talking about, about time. He just never got it. Never got what? He didn't get arrested. He didn't break any laws. He didn't get in any trouble. Not a picture with the girl in France that had some white powdery substance. Clearly just finished being in bed with him while he was eating some pizza. Okay, that was kind of suspect. But there's no evidence there. There's no concrete proof to convict Odell Beckham Jr. You pull him aside, you say it's a bad look, but it wasn't anything he did. Based on what we saw visually, he was eating pizza. I guess John re-energizing himself. And one can make the argument that the recreational activity that she was involved in was a little bit different for him. Let's just put it like that. He was involved in a different form of recreational activity. That wasn't him. That was her with that white powdery substance. So basically, off of that, John, off of that, all of you listeners out there, what you got? What did Odell Beckham Jr. do exactly? He was on the sideline screaming at himself. He was engaging in some form of histrionics because he got tired of running routes and being wide open and watching Eli Manning seem incapable of getting the ball to him. He throwing his helmet at the net and the net smacking him upside his head. What exactly did he do? John, to your knowledge, in Odell Beckham Jr.'s 5 years, did he ever miss a game due to any suspensions? Never. I think other than a beef with Josh Norman on the field. That was about it. And I'm not even sure, was that a suspension or a fine? I don't recall. But I think it was a suspension. Maybe it wasn't. Here's my point. For the most part, in Odell Beckham Jr.'s career, he's been there. Liked by his teammates, if not loved. Universally recognized as an incredibly hard worker. What'd he do? So this notion that he had to go, I'm sorry, I disagree with that. But having said that, let me say this. What's all the talk about legend? What am I missing, John? What's all the talk about a legend? Ladies and gentlemen, legends are made in the postseason. Odell Beckham Jr. has one appearance on his resume. It was one game. He was targeted 11 times. He caught 4 passes for 28 yards, dropped 3 of them against Green Bay at Lambeau Field. It's the frozen tundra. I get that. I'm going to sit up there and give him somewhat of a pass for that because, damn it, cold weather could affect a lot of people. It's just the truth. I'm not making excuses. I'm just giving you facts. When the football feels like a cold sheet of rocks or bricks, sometimes you might not catch a pass. No excuse, just reality. But 4 receptions for 28 yards, targeted 11 times, dropped 3 passes of the 7 that you missed out on totally. That is not exactly the most auspicious performance. So we understand that about Odell Beckham Jr. But what is all of this stuff about legend? If you're listening someplace, Odell Beckham Jr., mad love and respect for you, my brother. You're big time. But legends are made in the postseason. Legends are made in the postseason. We don't rave about Jerry Rice because of what he did in the regular season. We don't rave about Terrell Owens because of what he did in the regular season. We don't just rave about Chris Carter and others because of what they did in the regular season. It matters, it counts, but not as much as what you do in the postseason. That's where your bread is buttered in terms of your legend. So all of this talk about legendary, we have no evidence of that. There's no evidence of that. That's the reality of the situation. That's the stuff that we got to pay attention to. And I want to venture to a particular subject because I'm not even getting on Odell Beckham Jr. or any athlete for that matter. You know what I'm getting on? I'm getting on you as the public. I'm calling y'all out now, not myself. I would usually throw myself in the mix with you, but not on this note. Because this is where I'm very, very consistent. The competition you faced and the moment you're called upon to be a high-end producer counts. And as far as I'm concerned, America, as far as I'm concerned, sports world, we have regressed to a point where we have let folks off the hook. I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want to disrespect anybody. And I'm not going to mention any names because I'm all for athletes getting paid. And I don't want to be in anybody's pocket taking money out of it. You can market yourself and brand yourself to a point where you're able to make money off the court or field of play. More power to you. I'm not knocking the athletes. I'm knocking Madison Avenue willingness to pay folks who haven't won and haven't produced when it counts most. We got too much of that going on in the world of sports today. And then you wonder why Hall of Famers are all over the place bitter. They're not bitter at the particular athletes making the money. They're bitter at us who have compromised the standards we once held them to, but don't apply it to those in this day and age. When you see athletes who are Hall of Famers talking about a LeBron James, anybody from a LeBron James to an Alex Rodriguez or a Barry Bonds or anybody else, or Jerry Rice, or Terrell Owens, or Deion Sanders, or Michael Irvin, or Chris Carter, or anything like that. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, understand something. As great as T.O. was, and as cancerous as y'all want to talk about him, that brother showed up at the Super Bowl on one leg and was the best player on the field. As many transgressions as Michael Irvin may have had, he will forever be recognized as the playmaker because, my God, was he the playmaker, especially when it counted. Primetime Deion Sanders won a champion. Them. He was that difference. Jerry Rice is the greatest receiver in the history of football with over 22,000 receiving yards. Emmitt Smith was the all-time leading rusher, but we looked at Barry Sanders as potentially better. Some questioned whether or not it was Walter Payton or other people. But you know what you can't deny about Emmitt Smith? All-time leading rusher at the time he retired, not to mention the fact that he also won 3 championships and showed up and produced. He's a winner. So you have to understand that in the day and age that we're living in, you got guys looking at us as sports fans, not just the media, but at you as the fan, and said, what the hell happened to you? You got all these cats with commercials all over the place, ain't never won a damn thing. But you celebrate them and you market them, or you contribute to their marketability. And what have they won? At some point in time, doesn't being number one matter? Doesn't being a champion matter? The reason why we can love Steph Curry, the babyface assassin, with those milk commercials when he's going shopping and driving in that car, and he's going shopping because his wife told her to make sure he picks up some milk. You're talking to a 3-time champion. You're looking at a 3-time champion. Not just the greatest shooter that ever lived. He's a 3-time champion. When you see others with all these commercials, but they haven't won anything, you got a problem. Say what you want about LeBron, he's a 3-time champion. Say what you want about D-Wade, he's a 3-time champion. Other guys, doesn't take away from their greatness. Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook. List goes on and on. Great players. Great players. But should they be marketed and branded to the degree that champions are? No. Football players, same thing. Tom Brady deserves all the endorsements. He's got 6 rings. Aaron Rodgers, he's got 1, so he may not deserve as much as Tom Brady, but he deserves something because he's a champion. Ben Roethlisberger, 2-time champion. Drew Brees, champion. Cam Newton, not so much. We've gotten to a point where we're celebrating people that haven't won the chip. And then you wonder why you have so many problems with how the sports landscape has changed. Because we're not as demanding of them as we used to be. We're having a conversation right now with a Greek freak. He's played 70 of 78 games this year. They're talking about shutting him down because he's got that twisted up ankle injury and maybe he should rest the regular season. Of course he should rest the rest of the regular season because they're probably going to be the number 1 seed anyway. And the bottom line is you use that opportunity to get better for the playoffs. Absolutely true. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you something right now. If he didn't have that ankle injury, I wouldn't be in support of him taking a rest. I would not be supportive of that. You know why? Because he's 24 years old. That's why. The fact of the matter is he's 24 years of age, and if he were healthy, I would not want to hear that. I would not want to hear that. He's 24. Are you giving the paying customer a discount? Who do you think they want to come see? I don't recall the NBA or their respective individual teams or the NFL and their respective individual teams giving folks a price cut when it comes to marquee players not being able to play or choosing not to play. The Lakers have sat LeBron James down for the rest of the season. Fine, I understand it. He's in the 16th year, approaching the 17th season. Oh, okay, I get it. He's approaching 35 years of age. He's 34 now. I got it. I understand. But you think the Lakers have given the fans a discount? Michael Jordan. When Michael Jordan played, his rookie season, he played all 82 games. He got injured his second season, only played 18 games. After he came back from that injury that same year in 86 when he dropped 63 on Boston in the postseason, and Larry Bird and those boys, and Larry Bird said he's God and swept in a basketball jersey. From 1986 to 1993, Michael Jordan played 82, 82, 81, 82, 82, 80, and 78 games. He left to go play minor league baseball for a year and a half or year and 2/3, came back with 17 games left in the 1994-95 season, lost in the semifinals to the Orlando Magic, and the last 3 years of Michael Jordan's career in Chicago, he played 82 games all 3 years. Ladies and gentlemen, when he left the game and retired for 3 years before coming back to be a Washington Wizard in the 2001-2002 season, in 2002-2003, Michael Jordan's last year in the NBA at age 39, Michael Jordan played all 82 games and averaged 37 minutes a night. Technology has advanced since that time. Treatment, medical and otherwise, have been advanced. If he can do it, why can't most of these guys? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times Michael Jordan played all 82 games in the season. One other season he played 81. One other season he played 80. I'm sorry, 9 times. Because of his last year, he played all 82 games. One other time he played 81. One other time he played 80. 11 of his 15 seasons in the NBA, John, he missed a grand total of 5 games. And we got guys. I remember one time years ago, y'all, DeMarcus Cousins was on the Sacramento Kings, who hadn't made the playoffs in years, and he hasn't made the playoff at any time. This will be his first playoff appearance in his career. He actually took some time off for rest. And he's going home in April. And I don't mean to say that to pick on him. There's a few players that have done that. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's not the player's fault. It's not the organization's fault. It's ours. We've changed the standard. How in God's name are you making more money than you've ever made as an athlete? Because the money now is exorbitant compared to what it used to be. How in God's name is the money being doled out that's being doled out? And that's an excuse to take more time off than guys did before. And then y'all wonder why we got a problem in sports. Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. That was Straight Talk Wireless. Nationwide coverage in America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. By the way, you know what never goes out of style? Surprising a friend or loved one with a buy one, get one free multicolored rose bouquets for $29.99 from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Back with your calls in more in a minute.